Live in Midrand, and I believe, Aldrin, you have the Burundian ambassador to South Africa.
Yes, well, the ambassador joins us now to speak more about the situation in Burundi. Of course, today being the day that we're here for the sixth ordinary session of the Fourth Parliament. But however, though, we're taking a bit of a shift. We want to speak about Burundi, the state of Burundi, because in the next 10 days, the nationals in Burundi will be going for a referendum. Ambassador, just quickly explain to us what exactly it is that they'll be voting on.
Yeah, thank you, first of all, for having me. Let's talk about the current constitution which is guiding the Burundi and political institution. If you Google it, the heading of that constitution, which was adopted in 2005, the heading is Provisional Constitution of Burundi. So it was a provisional constitution which was meant to guide the political institutions for a sort of transitional period. Now, 12 to 15 years later, many things have changed. Mainly, at that time, Burundi was emerging from a civil war. Now, Burundi have really stabilized. National reconciliation is a fact. And another fact is that, meanwhile, Burundi has been accepted as a member of East African Community, and there is a program of political and economic integration of this African community, and Burundi is embarking in that project. And for that, we have to adapt our constitution so that it is harmonized with the other countries of East African Community. For example, the financial year of Burundi starts from the 1st of January to the 31st of December, while the other countries of this East African community, the financial year starts in 1st of July to end of June. So you see, this kind of differences between this kind of financial year is already a problem. There are some articles which need to be amended so that to adapt the Burundi constitution to current situation.
One of the specific clauses that has gained a lot of attraction, that the spotlight has been on, is the extension of the presidential term. And the interpretation from some opposition party leaders in Burundi is that the amendments mean that the current president, the incumbent, could extend his term for another 7 years, if not another 16 years. Is that the case?
If the ruling party nominates him as a presidential candidate, he will run for other elections. But that's not the aim of this constitutional referendum. The aim is to adapt this constitution, Burundi constitution, to our political and regional situation. So that might be a consequence, but that's not be the main objective. You know, the opposition parties have raised some reason to raise, but that is not the main objective.
But has the president at all indicated that he would be available to stand for another term when the Burundi is going to an election, or in the year 2020, in the next 2 years or so?
This is up to the ruling party to nominate its presidential candidate. And for the moment, we are not at that stage.
But is he available? Has he indicated?
Yes, he can be. He is.
So he is available.
He's available.
And that's the issue, because remember that back in 2015, the reason that you had the violent breakout was because that he had also availed himself for what some have said is a third term, although he made the argument and said that it is not exactly a third term, and of course this has been affirmed by the Constitutional Court in the country.
Yes, and the fact that the Constitutional Court has ruled on that issue, that should not be a reason for destabilizing the country. Because what happened in 2015 is that the Constitutional Court ruled that President Nkurunziza could run for that presidential election, because the Constitution was not clear on that issue. That's why there were those kind of discussions, because the Constitution was not clear. If the Constitution was clear, there would not have been this kind of constitution. So the Constitutional Court ruled that President Nkurunziza had the right to run for those elections. So there was no reason at all. I have never seen anywhere where a court ruling is challenged by opposition and even some other partners. It It was the first time I see that in history of the world. Even here in South Africa, when a court ruling is there, everybody has to respect it, even the president. So,
but you remember that at the time there was actually one of the judges who had said that there was pressure put on the court to rule in favor of President Nkurunziza. Is that the case?
You know, in that situation, there can be many information which can be given. You know, in what happened in 2015, you have many cadres of the government or the party who decided to run out of the country because they were involved in some sort of preparation against the President Nkurunziza. And what happened, in fact, is that despite that ruling, we saw some people who have been, let's say, encouraged by some countries to disturb the security of the country, and even attempted a coup d'etat. You know, a coup d'etat isn't prepared in 2 days. This means that it is something which has been planned long before, even after the coup d'etat, the coup d'etat attempt which occurred on May 13. 2 months later, we had massive military attacks from outside the country. There are Burundian combatants who had been trained outside the country to come and attack Burundi. That cannot be organized in 1 day. That means something which has been well planned before, long before. So that's why we say, in fact, when people are saying about the so-called third term in 2015 is a sort of pretext. That was not the main reason.
The AU Commission chairperson just now, in his opening address here at the Pan-African Parliament, mentioned, but only in a sentence, that they are concerned about the state of Burundi. And I wonder then, from your point of view, and just listening to what you said so far, do you think that it could be unfounded that Burundi is stable enough even to run a free and fair election come 2020, or stable enough even to go to a referendum come the 17th of December?
Yes. It is the fact that the chairperson of East African Commission has referred to Burundi, that the situation in Burundi is concerning. It's true that because what happened in 2015 was a really serious threat, and it's normal that international community may be, let's say, watching Burundi, how the situation is evolving. But what we can say, and what we did observe, is that that security threat has been dealt with in 2015, and peace and stability have been restored all over the country since beginning 2016. So it is true that even now some governments or our regional and continental partners keep an eye on Burundi to see how, if the stabilization which can be observed now is a real reality. Because East African communities there, the Peace and Security Council of the African Union has been in Burundi. The 15 members have been in Burundi. They met with the political partners in Burundi, even the president. The UN Security Council, the 15 members, they went in Burundi in 2016, and they could observe that really the country was in peace. And what we can now reassure the international community that now really Burundi is in peace and the stability is there. Even now we are talking, there is a campaign for that referendum we are referring to. Now we have two sides. The ruling party with some political parties campaigning for yes, and some political parties campaigning for no. All those two sides are campaigning freely, and the process is really being conducted smoothly. You can ask everybody, the people who are really observing what's happening in Burundi, they can affirm, they can confirm that the process is being handled smoothly.
But if you speak to media houses, they would make the argument that there's actually an onslaught against some of the media houses in Burundi, especially now that the government has decided to suspend the BBC as well as the Voice of America.
Okay, maybe some people may have a concern about that, but you know, these media has to follow some deontology of their work. They are in connection. They are working with the National Council for Communication, and they have some agreement, they have some rules to follow. If they break the rules, the National Council for Communication, National Council, can take measures. Those are some measures which are provided for in those, let's say, in the law, so that if a media breaks the law, this is the kind of measure which can be taken.
Is it not an attack on media freedom, seeing as well that you have the World Media Freedom Index that ranks Burundi around about 139 out of 180 countries, which means that things are pretty bad in Burundi for journalists?
It depends who is making these rankings, you know. What we can say is the media can have to work in a certain environment and have to follow a certain rules. Sometimes, you know, the media do not follow those rules. If we refer to 2015, even the media, there were media which were saying about the situation, but they never mentioned that the Constitutional Court had ruled that President Nkurunziza was allowed to rule, to run for another term. They was giving a sort of biased information, so people who do not know the situation would believe that Nkurunziza has contravened, has breached the law. In fact, he had not. You see, this kind of media can be manipulated, and in that case of situation, the government body can take some measures against those media.
Just in closing, how do you ensure that you improve this relationship between the media as well as the government, considering that you're going to the referendum, but quite importantly, the 2020 elections?
You know, the suspension of this media is for a short time. It is a sort of a warning, in fact. It's for a short time. There is one national media which has been suspended for 3 months, BBC and VOA for 6 months. After that, they can work as freely as others. But in respecting the rules, they can agree upon with the National Council for Communication.
Ambassadors, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
There you have it from the ambassador with regards to the state of Burundi. But of course, you know, quite importantly, in the next 10 days, they'll be heading for that referendum, which proposes some constitutional amendments, which some people have raised the red flags on, and as the ambassador is indicating that there's nothing, in actual fact, to worry about, and that the situation in Burundi, according to him, is much better and more stable compared to back in 2015, where we saw the violence unfold in various cities and various parts of that country. For now, let's take a quick ad break, and at 1 o'clock the news will continue.
Very good morning to you, and thank you so much indeed for choosing Morning Live.
But I want to know the basic thing.
Griselda Lewis, SABC News, in Parktown, Johannesburg.
Zimbabwe, Mzondeli Mbeje, SABC News, Luanda, Angola.
Let's take a look at your market indicators.
Thanks for staying with Morning Live. Let's bring you your sports news.
Let's take a look at your satellite image.
Set the agenda for the day with Morning Live.